He sat on the couch, watching his favorite shows. The changing colors dimly lit the dark room, creating an eerie white glow. His wife was already in bed. He chuckled. She was always so tired after keeping the house all day and taking care of their child. He was very fond of her. The past few months had been the best of his life, for they never fought anymore, not since their last major quarrel. Now he would work and bring home the bread while his darling wife would care for all the house duties. Their lovely daughter never cried, for she was always well behaved, even though she was only 1 year old. He was so proud of his family, and he adored them. He turned off the television and walked to the bedroom. He could barely make out the crib in the corner, holding his peaceful, sleeping child, and his bed against the wall with his equally peaceful wife. He tiptoed to the crib and planted a kiss on his daughter's tiny forehead. He then went to his bed and lay down next to his wife. He put his arms around her thin frame and kissed her cheekbone. He whispered, "I love you," into her ear. She turned around in his arms and they kissed. "Hello, darling." He smiled into the darkness. "You're so beautiful." He stroked her pale face and brushed a few wisps of hair away. "Were you waiting for me?" He embraced her tighter. This is how it went every night, and every night was more perfect than the last. He would hug, kiss, and touch her to his heart's content until he fell asleep from exhaustion and satisfaction. He loved being next to her, and he loved having that figure with him. She was life and death embodied, and she would be his forever. He reminisced that perfect day 5 months before, when everything fell into place. He remembered the fury, then the relief when he solved all their problems. Fortunately, he had found a way to solve their troubles in a way that benefited all 3 of them. He noticed how brittle she was in his arms, and he worried that time was taking her apart. But he put this worry aside, for he knew it didn't matter. She was his and would always be, no matter what form she was in. When he awoke the next morning, his wife kissed his cheek. He held her happily in his arms again. His daughter was still silent in the crib, so well behaved. Both women in his life were well-mannered and obedient, just like they should be. Every now and then, he thought he heard a tiny giggle, signs that the baby was playing. He got up from the bed and made his breakfast in the kitchen. He got ready for work, smiling pleasantly all the while. He kissed his wife and daughter on the foreheads again, whispering his goodbyes. He finally walked to the door and opened it. Immediately, he felt 2 burly men jump on him and shove his face into the dirt. He felt cold metal touch his wrists, and he heard the click of the handcuffs locking. Simultaneously, a detective stood in front of him. "You are under arrest for identity theft, impersonating an official, and credit card fraud." One of the men holding him down started reading his rights. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you in the court of law." He looked up just as another cop went into the house. "Hey, Daniels. Smells like the devil himself in here. I think we should take a look." He watched the detective slowly walk by, and he could see the look of shock on his face. He put his head down and grinned as he heard the 2 yelps of horror. They had discovered 2 skeletons in puddles of rot and insects, one in the bed and one in the crib.